Unaware his wife secretly built a $150 million empire, husband slapped her at family dinner for serving his food. Late, what she did next left them with nothing. He didn't just disrespect her. He did it in his parents' dining room, with every chair filled, every plate still warm, and every pair of eyes pretending not to see. Mark Walker leaned back in his seat like a king waiting to be served, grabbed his wife's wrist when his plate arrived a few seconds later than he wanted and in front of his entire family. He slapped her. The room froze. Forks stopped midair. No one defended her. No one even breathed. Emily Walker kept her gaze low, hiding the sting on her cheek and the quiet shift happening behind her eyes. To them, she was the polite wife who always helped, always apologized, always stayed soft. Someone with nothing important going on. Someone who didn't have a voice. What Mark didn't know was this. The woman he struck had spent years building something powerful in the dark. Every morning before the sun rose, every night after he fell asleep, Emily was quietly constructing a tech empire under her maiden name. Through carefully built trusts, she owned investment accounts, assets and properties. Even the house whose mortgage he still bragged about handling, even though the payments quietly left her accounts every month. And she had just closed a funding deal that placed her company's valuation at a staggering $150 million. While Mark mocked her little hobbies, she was the one signing investor contracts. While he sent money to another woman from the joint card he thought he controlled, that money came from accounts she secretly funded and monitored, and the night he chose to humiliate her in front of everyone was the night she stopped protecting him. This isn't just a story about a slap at dinner. It's about what happens when a man mistreats a woman he never bothered to understand and discovers too late that the ground beneath his feet was hers all along. Dear viewers, thank you for being here. If you're watching without subscribing, it's like letting Emily's strength be ignored the way they ignored her at that table. When you click that button, you stand with every quiet soul who was underestimated, dismissed, or silenced, and still rose higher than anyone expected. Please subscribe and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Emily Hayes Walker woke up with a sharp gasp, as if her mind had already been running long before her body caught up. She wasn't startled by danger. She was startled by ideas, complex ones, urgent ones, the kind that snapped her awake at 5:12 every morning. For a moment, the room looked still, peaceful, and warm. But inside her head, numbers raced, strategies formed, and decisions waited. She sat up slowly, brushing her long hair away from her face. 36 years old, quiet by nature, and soft-spoken around everyone but the people she trusted. On the outside, she was an ordinary wife, but beneath that calm, she carried a sharp mind shaped by years of preparation and quiet discipline. Emily swung her legs over the bed and reached for the slim silver laptop hidden beneath the nightstand. She didn't hide it from fear. She hid it from misunderstanding. Her husband, Mark Walker, 40 years old, liked to believe he understood everything happening in his home. But this was her world, a world he never truly noticed. The screen lit her face in a cool glow. Not social media, not shopping, charts, curves, market signals, equity projections. Early morning messages from investors in different time zones. Every morning, she checked the pulse of the company she built brick by brick, Hayes Tech, the quiet startup she had incorporated under her maiden name 3 years earlier. A company Mark had never asked about, never cared to understand, and never realized even existed. In his mind, if he ever thought about it at all, it was just some online work, like the freelance job she once did to help with bills. But her story didn't start in this marriage. Her fingers hovered above the keyboard, and a memory pulled her backward. She was 10, sitting at a kitchen table with her father, an accountant with tired eyes but a patient smile. He slid a notebook toward her. "Number," he told her, tapping the page, "will take you anywhere if you respect them." She remembered copying columns, learning balance sheets, practicing how money moved. Her father never had much, but he gave her something more powerful than wealth: skill, confidence, understanding. Another memory flashed in. 17-year-old Emily in the library, stacking thick finance books, reading until her eyes burned. Teachers thought she was studying for a test. She wasn't. She was studying for her life. Years later, in her 20s, a friend from graduate school, Sarah Collins, the woman who later became her lawyer, laughed across a cafe table and said, "Emily, you should start your own fund. You think like a founder." Emily had smiled politely, hiding a dream she wasn't ready to show the world. She didn't have support then. She didn't have trust. But she had knowledge. She had vision. And that was enough. Back in the present, the faint hum of the bedroom air vent blended with the soft tapping of her keys as she scanned the growth chart of her newest project. She paused, eyes narrowing. One upward spike looked sharper than expected. A good sign. A very good sign. She leaned closer, then froze. Footsteps. Her heartbeat slowed, not because she was doing anything wrong, but because she knew what came next. Confusion, questions she didn't feel like answering, and a dismissive shrug that always followed. Mark Walker pushed the bedroom door open with the casual confidence of a man who believed the world always waited on him. Once athletic, now slightly soft around the edges, he carried himself as if nothing in life required improvement. Not even him. He rubbed his eyes. "You're up early again?" Emily closed the laptop with one smooth motion, careful not to look rushed. "Couldn't sleep." Mark moved around the room without noticing the tension in the air. He never noticed much. Emily had been married to him for nearly 9 years, and in all that time, he'd never asked about her private goals. He saw her as reliable, gentle, supportive, which she was. But he mistook those things for smallness. "Hey," he said, pointing at her closed laptop, "what are you always working on so early?" The question wasn't curiosity, it was annoyance. A habit. Something he asked the way others asked about the weather, never waiting for an answer. He had already decided it was some boring side work that didn't really matter. Emily smiled softly, the way she always did when she didn't feel understood. "Just something I'm building." He nodded without interest, already looking for his phone, his socks, breakfast, always expecting her to fill the spaces he left empty. He didn't ask another question. He didn't lean closer. He didn't wonder what she meant. He simply moved on. Emily watched him walk out the bedroom door, and something in her chest tightened. Not with fear, not with anger, but with knowledge. He would never ask again. He didn't care enough to. She reopened her laptop once he disappeared down the hall. The screen's glow returned, lighting her face with determination. Her company was growing faster than expected. Opportunities were coming, wealth was rising, and Mark, he was drifting further and further away from the truth. Far below the rising chart line, a small red calendar icon blinked quietly on the corner of her screen. A reminder she hadn't opened yet. Family dinner, Sunday 6 p.m., Helen's house, sent to her and Mark by his mother a week earlier. Emily hovered her mouse over it and hesitated. Work, family, secrets, all of it pressing closer together. A subtle sign that something in her world, outside the laptop, was about to shift. The sharp crash of a cabinet slamming open cut through the kitchen like an alarm. Mark Walker stood there in the doorway, jaw tight, irritation already raging across his face, as if he'd woken up searching for something to be angry about. "What is this?" he snapped, holding up a plate. "Grease. You didn't rinse it right." His voice hit the room before his presence did. That was how he always entered. Loud first, human second. Emily, still in her soft morning clothes, turned slowly from the sink. The shock of his tone hit her, but she kept her face calm. She always kept her face calm. "It's clean, Mark. Maybe the lighting—" He cut her off with a scoff. "It's not clean. Never mind, I'll do it myself." He wouldn't. He never did. But the plate slammed into the sink anyway. The intensity of the moment hung in the air, sharp and unfair. Then, like a wave pulling back, everything softened into a quieter tension. Emily lowered her eyes not out of fear, but to gather herself. She had grown used to this version of him, short-tempered, dismissive, easily offended. Years ago, he hadn't been like this. Or maybe she just hadn't seen it clearly. Love had a way of making harsh edges look rounded. She wiped her hands on a towel and stepped back. Mark's mother, Helen Walker, 64 years old with a voice that could slice stone, entered from the living room. She had let herself in early that morning with the spare key she insisted on having, saying she wanted to help Emily keep the house in order. She was the kind of woman who believed tradition was scripture, and any woman who challenged it was rebellious. What did she do now? Helen asked, as if trouble followed Emily everywhere, instead of the other way around. Mark replied, "The usual. She doesn't pay attention." Helen's eyes landed on Emily. "A woman's place," she said slowly, "is making the home peaceful. Men deal with enough outside. They shouldn't come home to disorder." Emily felt the words hit her like small stones. She swallowed, quietly, gracefully, because giving them nothing was the only way to protect herself. "I understand," she said, though she understood much more than they believed. She turned back to the sink, moving with steady calm. While they complained loudly, she softened her breathing and centered herself. This was a practiced skill, protecting her mind from chaos around her. But beneath her quiet surface, something simmered. Not anger, not yet. Something closer to recognition. A flash of memory rose inside her with sharp clarity. Years ago, right after Mark lost his job at the sales firm that once paid most of their visible bills, he had spiraled into long days on the couch and long nights blaming the industry, the market, and anyone but himself. During that time, Emily took remote work editing financial documents, balancing books for small businesses, and tutoring online. She worked quietly, often into early morning, earning enough to keep their bills paid when his severance ran out. She remembered sitting at the same kitchen table, eyes burning from lack of sleep, when Mark passed by her without looking up from his phone. "You should sleep earlier," he said. "No thank you, no appreciation, just criticism." And she had swallowed that too. Back in the present, the house felt smaller than ever. Mark's footsteps thudded down the hall as he searched for his keys. Helen muttered something about women these days. Emily inhaled deeply, exhaled quietly. She didn't defend herself. She didn't argue. She didn't break. Instead, she reached for her phone on the counter, if only to distract her mind for a moment. A message preview popped onto the screen, not for her phone, but for Mark's. His device sat charging nearby, unlocked for once. Emily hadn't planned to look at it. She hadn't even meant to glance. But the words in the preview flashed bright. "Are you coming over tonight? She won't know." Emily's breath stilled in her throat. Her hand froze midair. She didn't open the phone. She didn't touch it. She didn't gasp or whip around or let pain show. She simply blinked once, slow, controlled. Then she set her own phone down, picked up a dish towel, and kept working. Her mind didn't scream. It organized. Quietly, carefully, she stored those 8 little words deep in her memory, in the same mental drawer where she kept every hurt, every pattern, every sign she once excused. Behind her, Mark walked back into the kitchen. "Did you hear me?" he asked sharply. Emily looked up, calm as still water. "Yes, Mark." He didn't notice a thing, not the shift in her eyes, not the silence turning heavy. As he turned away, Emily's gaze drifted back to his phone, still glowing, still unlocked, still whispering truths he didn't think she would ever see. Just before the screen went dark, another notification pulsed gently, a small calendar reminder he had set for dinner, 8 p.m., with no details and no invite sent to her. She wasn't supposed to see that either, but she did, and she would remember both. The night the truth finally snapped into place began with a violent burst of sound. Emily's laptop vibrating against the wooden desk as a flood of notifications hit all at once. The sudden noise cut through the quiet house like a warning. It was near midnight, the walls still, the air heavy, and Mark asleep in the next room after another evening of dismissive comments and unexplained absences. Emily steadied the laptop with one hand, heart racing not from fear but from urgency. Numbers were moving fast, and decisions had to be made. The intensity of the moment pressed against her chest, then slowly softened, shifting into calm, deep focus. She inhaled deeply and leaned forward, letting the familiar glow of the screen pull her into the world she had built in secret, her empire. Piece by piece, memory by memory, the path unfolded inside her mind. The beginning had been nothing glamorous. It started 3 years earlier, on another exhausting night, when Mark had been sitting in the living room playing games late into the night. He had lost his job then, laid off after ignoring warnings about performance, And instead of using the time to rebuild, he drowned himself in entertainment. Emily remembered him shouting at the game, laughing with strangers online through his headset, while she sat at the kitchen table beside piles of unpaid bills. That night, frustration became inspiration. She opened her old notes, ideas she'd sketched since her early 20s, scribbled between shifts, saved on scraps of paper. Ideas she never believed she had time or strength to pursue. But watching Mark waste his nights while she carried the weight of their life pushed her off the edge of hesitation. She whispered to herself, "If no one is going to build our future, I will." And she began. The second memory arrived like a soft but firm touch. Sarah Collins, the lawyer friend from her graduate days, sitting across from her in a quiet cafe. Sarah was smart, sharp-tongued, and fiercely loyal. When Emily told her she was thinking of starting a business, Sarah didn't laugh. She leaned in and said, "Then let's do it right." Sarah guided her through every step, an LLC under Emily's maiden name, Hayes, a trust that protected the company assets under her sole control. Silent partners who believed in her idea, but stayed off the paperwork by choice. A parent company structure that separated personal life from business life entirely, so that anything built from her skills stayed legally hers. Sarah warned her gently, "This is clean, legal, and strong, but Mark won't understand the separation. Keep your documents safe and don't mix his name into the business." Emily had nodded, remembering how Mark reacted to anything he didn't control, with irritation and accusations. The structure was set. All she had to do now was build. The next memory rose like warm firelight. Emily spent endless nights teaching herself how to code simple prototypes. She watched tutorials until dawn. She sketched designs across notebook pages. She tested ideas again and again, chasing the one that could grow. She had always been brilliant. Her father knew it, Sarah knew it, but Mark had never looked deeply enough to see it. When the prototype gained traction, she pitched it quietly to early investors through private online meetings. She met them while Mark was at the gym pretending to network, or in the hours he spent gaming and scrolling through his phone. Mark never noticed because he never paid attention to the world outside himself. He would walk past her late at night and ask, "Are you really still doing that hobby?" She would smile softly and say yes. While forms for seed funding were open on the screen, he never bothered to look at. Slowly, painfully, steadily, she climbed from idea to product, from product to company, from company to something far bigger than she ever imagined. She hired a small early team, brought in an advisor or two, formed a board, and still came home to cook dinner as if nothing had changed. Back in the present, Emily stared at the latest message flashing across her screen. A notification from her board. Series C funding approved. The number beside it made her breath catch. Valuation now, $150 million. Her hand rose to her mouth, covering the small breath of disbelief. Not shock. She had worked for this. But the reality of it still pressed against her chest like a weight she wasn't ready to set down. She glanced toward the dark hallway. Mark was asleep, unaware that the woman he ignored, criticized, and underestimated had just become the owner of a rapidly growing empire. She didn't need applause. She didn't need validation. But she felt something stir inside her, something steady and powerful, a quiet understanding that life was changing faster than he realized. She closed the laptop carefully, the light fading into darkness. For a moment, she sat in silence, letting the truth settle into her bones. Then her phone buzzed, one soft vibration. She expected another business alert. It wasn't. It was a message from an unknown contact, a name she recognized from Mark's phone earlier. Lily. Attached to it was a simple line. "Don't forget tomorrow night. Same restaurant, 8 p.m. She still has no idea. A reminder about a dinner invitation she was never told about. But that was already booked on Mark's secret calendar. The shouting hit Emily like a slap of cold air the moment she stepped into the hallway. Mark's voice, sharp, irritated, and too loud, cut through the stillness of the house with unexpected force. "No, I told you not to call me right now," he barked. The tone was too urgent, too angry, too personal. Emily froze beside the wall, heart thudding as Mark stormed through the back door and stepped outside into the yard. He slammed it behind him, making the glass rattle. She could still hear his muffled voice on the other side. rising and falling in the sharp rhythm of a man arguing with someone he shouldn't be arguing with. The intensity of his anger pressed into the room, then slowly softened into a quieter, colder unease. Emily stood completely still, her breath thinning into a slow, controlled pattern. She didn't need to hear the words. She didn't need to confirm the suspicion. The tone alone spoke volumes. She turned away from the door, her chest tightening as she walked back toward the living room. Her mind replayed the message she saw earlier. She won't know. Now the voice outside connected the dots she had tried to ignore. She sat on the sofa, hands resting gently on her knees, forcing herself to breathe in and out, deep and steady, the way she always did when life tried to break her spirit. After a few minutes, Mark walked back inside, face turned away as he slipped his phone into his pocket. He didn't look guilty. He didn't look nervous. He looked careless. "Who was that?" Emily asked softly, keeping her tone level. "Work," Mark replied too quickly. "Stressful stuff. You wouldn't understand." He kissed her forehead out of habit, not affection, then moved toward the bedroom. Emily watched him walk away, a strange numbness settling over her. She didn't confront him. She didn't ask again. She didn't raise her voice. Confrontation never opened truth with Mark. It only opened anger. Later that evening, while doing laundry, her fingers grazed the collar of his shirt. Something smudged against her thumb, a faint, rosy line. Lipstick. Not her shade. Too bright. Too bold. She stared at it until her heartbeat steadied again. Then she folded the shirt neatly, placing it exactly where he expected it to be. She never let him see the alarm in her mind. She moved carefully like someone handling thin glass. Emily walked to her office and opened her laptop, not for work, but from instinct. She navigated to the joint financial account she maintained for household expenses. It was nearly empty. Again, she scrolled deeper. She knew the pattern by now. Every month, she quietly transferred part of her consulting income and business distributions into that joint account so the bills would never bounce, letting Mark believe the money came from his past savings or old contacts. This time, several small transfers over the past 2 months caught her eye. Not large enough to attract attention, not large enough to seem suspicious to someone careless, but large enough for her to feel the truth in her bones. They were sent to a woman named Lily Adams. The name meant nothing to her until it suddenly meant everything. Emily didn't gasp. She didn't cry. She simply took a screenshot, saved it to a hidden folder, then closed the laptop gently. Her hands were steady, but her spirit felt heavier than it had in years. She reached for her phone and dialed Sarah Collins, her lawyer and oldest friend, someone who knew Emily's mind better than anyone. Sarah answered on the second ring, bright and awake as always. "Emily, everything okay?" Emily hesitated. Not long, just long enough for the weight of the moment to land. "If I needed to protect myself," she said quietly, "hypothetically, how fast can assets be frozen or protected so no one else can drain them?" There was no confusion in Sarah's silence, only concern. "Emily," she said slowly, voice firm. "What happened?" Emily closed her eyes. "Just answer me," Sarah exhaled. "For accounts in your name and the business, I can send instructions tonight. Within 2 hours, no one but you will be able to move real money. Joint accounts that you fund can be shifted under your control too, but only if you say so. 2 hours. Enough time to lock down everything that was truly hers. More than enough time to change her entire life." Emily whispered, "Thank you," then hung up before her voice could crack. She stared at the dark screen of her phone, fingers curling slightly. A quiet certainty settled inside her, a shift so subtle she barely felt it, but strong enough to change everything. In the distance, through the thin walls of the house, Mark's ringtone buzzed again. Softer this time, with a name she wasn't supposed to know blinking against the dark. Lily. A name she would hear again soon, at a dinner she never agreed to attend. 2 evenings later, the scream of Mark's name tore through the hallway the moment Emily stepped into his parents' home. His mother's sharp voice carried all the way from the dining room. "Mark, tell her the food is getting cold." The intensity hit Emily like a hot wave. She hadn't even taken off her coat. She hadn't had a moment to breathe after the investor follow-up call that ran over time. The one where her board discussed next steps now that the company was officially valued at $150 million. She stood frozen for half a second near the front door, laptop bag hanging from her shoulder, heart still racing from numbers, projections, deadlines. But it didn't matter why she was late. Not here. Not to them. She walked into the dining room trying to steady her breath. The room smelled of baked dishes and heavy spices, the air thick with voices and opinions that belonged to everyone but her. Mark Walker sat at the head of the table, already eating bread, leaning back like a man entertaining an audience. His father and mother sat on either side. His sister, Marcia, 32, always comparing, always judging, smirked when she saw Emily walk in. "You're late," Mark said loudly as if announcing a crime. "We've been waiting." "I'm sorry," Emily replied softly. "My meeting ran—" "No one cares about that," Marcia interrupted. "We're all busy." Emily didn't respond. She walked into the kitchen, set her laptop bag down where no one would notice it, and began preparing plates. She moved quickly, carefully. She had done this before. Too many times. She carried the plates to the dining room. Everyone received their food. Everyone except Mark. She had saved his plate for last because he always expected it warmest and freshest, and she had learned not to argue with that. But the delay was only seconds. Still, as she reached his side, he set his jaw and stiffened. His eyes, cold, irritated, followed her hand placing the plate in front of him. Then his fingers closed around her wrist. The grip was hard, sharp, a sudden shock of pressure. "What is this?" he hissed. "Everyone else has been eating. Why am I last?" His parents looked down at their plates. Marcia sipped her drink. No one said a word. Because this wasn't new. They had seen smaller versions of this, moments where Mark snapped, grabbed her arm, raised his voice. They never intervened. They called it stress or bad days or how men are. Emily opened her mouth to speak, but before words formed, his hand moved faster. The slap struck her cheek with a crack that sliced through the room. Her head jerked to the side. Time stopped. The shock was complete and cold. The kind that didn't burn, it froze. Mark's mother gasped softly but didn't stand. His father's eyes darted to the table. Marcia looked uncomfortable but silent, pressing her lips together as if silence could erase what she had witnessed. Emily touched her cheek, feeling the heat rise under her palm. But she didn't cry. She didn't tremble. She didn't break. Instead, she lifted her chin slightly, turned her face back toward him, and met his eyes with a calm so unnatural it unnerved even him. "Thank you," she whispered, voice steady. "I needed that." The room fell into a strange, suffocating silence. Mark blinked, uncertain for the first time. "What?" Emily pulled her wrist from his grip gently, not forcefully, as if his strength no longer mattered. His mother leaned forward. "Emily, dear, maybe sit down." Emily ignored her. She reached for the nearest glass of water, took a slow sip, set it down, and then walked to the empty chair opposite Mark. Her movements were measured, almost graceful. Not a single tear touched her eyes. Inside her chest, something seismic shifted. Not anger, not sadness. A door closing. And once it closed, it would never open again. She sat quietly while the family began to eat again. Awkward, unsettled, pretending everything would be normal if they just didn't acknowledge the moment. Under the table, her hands were steady. Her breathing was slow. Her mind was turning gears she had kept locked away for years. Legal structures, account controls, passwords, steps she and Sarah had mapped out long ago, just in case. She looked at Mark again, not with love or fear, but with clarity. He didn't notice. He didn't even look at her. But if he had, he would have seen it. Eyes no longer filled with patience. Eyes no longer waiting for change. Eyes that had finally decided. And as she stood to collect empty plates later, something shimmering caught her eye on the table. Mark's phone screen lighting up. A message preview changed everything. Dinner tonight? Same place. She won't suspect a thing. Same number. Same Lily. Emily's hand paused midair, steady but frozen. And without moving her lips, she thought, not yet, but soon. The front door slammed behind Emily with a force she didn't plan, the sound echoing through the empty house like a warning. Her breath shook in her chest, not from fear, not from pain, but from something sharper, something clean, something final. Her cheek still burned from the slap, the red mark fading slowly, but the memory of it felt carved deeper than skin. Her fingers hovered near her face, not to touch the pain, but to remind herself that it happened, that it was real, that a line had been crossed so clearly that she no longer needed to pretend. The intensity pulsed through the room for a moment, hot, fierce, electric, before settling into a cold, focused calm. She slipped off her coat and walked straight to the study, every step measured. No trembling, no hesitation. The soft click of her heels on the hardwood floor became a countdown. She reached the old wooden desk tucked against the wall. It looked ordinary from the outside, but Emily knew better. She knelt down, reached beneath it, and pulled forward a small metal box with a lock on the front. The box was her real heartbeat. She unlocked it with a tiny silver key she kept behind a frame photo. Inside the box lay everything she had ever built. Trust certificates, company ownership documents, password logs, beneficiary forms, power of attorney letters, backup drives of her entire startup, the entire skeleton of her empire. This wasn't new. She had opened this box many times before for updates or quiet checks. But tonight felt different. Tonight felt like purpose. She spread the documents across the table, the papers crisp, clean, protected. They looked nothing like the life she lived outside this room. Here the truth was written clearly. Emily Hayes owned everything. Mark Walker owned nothing that he hadn't been allowed to use. Her hands didn't shake as she reached for her phone. She scrolled through her contacts until she found the name she always trusted. Sarah Collins, her lawyer, her friend, the woman who helped her set the foundation years ago. Emily hit call. Sarah answered almost instantly. Emily? There was no small talk, no breathing room. Emily's voice came out quiet but firm. Activate everything we planned. A pause. Concern. Understanding. Sarah didn't ask why. She didn't need to. She had heard the shift in Emily's tone years ago when Emily first started building her safety nets. Just in case. Sarah exhaled and replied, On it. I'll start the asset protection steps now. No questions, no hesitation, just 2 words that turned the wheels of destruction. Emily ended the call and sat down slowly. Time felt thick as she watched the next steps unfold. Her laptop chimed repeatedly, each sound marking a part of her life locking into place. A silent montage began. Passwords changed. Emergency protocols triggered. Bank accounts under her maiden name secured with new authentication. Joint accounts she funded moved under restricted status pending separation. Property trust records opened on her screen, confirming her as the sole legal owner from the very beginning. Business shares checked and confirmed under protected trusts. Digital signatures finalizing that she alone controlled the company and all voting rights. The family phone plan, registered in her name, adjusted so only her line remained active. The house around her remained quiet. Quiet like deep water hiding dangerous depth. Quiet like the moment before a storm fully breaks. Emily leaned back in her chair, the soft glow of the screen lighting her calm expression. The part of her that once waited for love, patience, or understanding no longer existed. Only clarity remained. Meanwhile, across town, Mark sat on the edge of a couch at one of his friends' houses, scrolling through his phone without a thought in the world. He smirked at messages he shouldn't be reading, planning things he shouldn't be planning. Then his phone buzzed. He glanced down, his eyebrows pulled together. A notification glowed on the screen from his banking app. Your online access has been temporarily suspended. Please contact your bank. He stared at it, confused, tapping the screen again. And again. And again. Nothing changed. He frowned deeper, annoyance rising, but not fear. Not yet. Mark had never imagined a world where he wasn't in control. He looked around the room, irritated at the inconvenience. He had no idea the storm had already started. And somewhere in Emily's house, another silent alert blinked softly on her screen. A new digital folder opened in Sarah's secure portal with 3 words at the top. Emily Hayes, divorce. The first crack in Mark's world hit with brutal force the next afternoon. The gas station lights flickered overhead as he slid his card into the pump. The machine beeped once, then again. Then the screen flashed a bold, sharp message that punched straight into his chest. Declined. Not once. 3 times. Try again, Mark muttered to himself, jaw tightening. He slammed the card in harder, as if aggression could fix numbers. Again. Declined. A man at the next pump glanced over. Mark turned away quickly, pretending he was checking something on his phone, but a rush of heat climbed up his neck. Embarrassment, confusion, annoyance. He yanked his phone out to transfer money. The screen lit up. Before going black, he frowned and pressed the power button. Nothing. Then he looked up at the corner of the phone screen. No service, no bars, no data. His entire plan shut off. What the? He stepped back, trying to breathe, trying to understand. Intensity surged through him. His words came fast. Why is everything not working? But the chaos inside him slowly slid into cold confusion as he walked inside the station and paid with cash. He had enough for fuel, but barely. He drove off trying to calm himself, telling himself it was a glitch. That's all. A glitch. But the world didn't agree. Hours later, he pulled into the driveway of the home he believed he paid for. He opened the mailbox out of habit and froze. A thick envelope from the bank and mortgage servicer sat at the top. He tore it open, expecting an apology, an update, an explanation. Instead, property ownership and mortgage summary. Registered owner, Hayes Family Trust. Beneficiary, Emily Hayes Walker. Occupant on file, Mark Walker, non-owner. He stood completely still, the air leaving his lungs. What? His voice cracked. He read it again, then again. His name, listed only as occupant. Her name, appearing everywhere else. His head spun. Heat surged up his spine. He crushed the letter in his fist. He stormed inside, chest heaving. Emily was at the stove, stirring vegetables in a pan, her movements calm and steady as if the world was perfectly normal. Her back was relaxed, her breathing smooth. She didn't look shaken. She didn't look frantic. She looked peaceful. Mark froze in the doorway, anger twisting across his face. Emily, all my accounts, my cards, my phone, everything is freezing. My mother just called. The transfer she was expecting bounced, and the bank told her the source account is restricted. What is happening? Emily didn't turn around. She lowered the heat on the stove, lifted the pan, and slid the vegetables onto a plate. Only then did she speak, but her voice was calm, too calm. Everything you're losing, she said gently, was never yours to begin with. You just spent it. The words sank into the room like ice. Mark blinked. His anger stuttered. What are you talking about? Emily placed the plate on the counter, wiped her hands, and finally turned to face him. Her face was soft, unbothered, almost serene. You never built any of it, she said. You only used it. He stepped closer, breath sharp. Emily, don't play games. I need answers. Right now. She tilted her head slightly. I gave you answers. Then she walked past him, calm as a drifting tide. Mark felt something shift in the air as she passed. A cold truth he didn't yet understand, but would feel soon enough. Don't walk away from me, he demanded. Emily paused for only a second. Then don't pretend you ever looked toward me. Then she disappeared down the hallway. Mark stood in the kitchen, fists tight, breathing fast. He felt something cracking inside him, a rising panic he didn't know how to control. Then a sharp knock cut through the house. Knock, knock, knock. Mark jerked toward the front door. A sheriff stood outside, uniform crisp, expression unreadable. He held a white envelope in his hand. Mark Walker? The sheriff asked. Mark stiffened. Yes? The sheriff extended the envelope. This is for you. You've been formally served. Mark tore it open, breath shaking. His eyes widened as he read the title across the top. Notice of divorce proceedings filed by Emily Hayes Walker. The paper trembled in his hand. His voice cracked. No, she wouldn't. From the hallway, unseen by him, Emily watched. Calm, still. Her eyes did not flinch. And in the distance, another silent step of her plan clicked into place. A court date already scheduled for weeks ahead. Weeks later, the courtroom exploded with noise the moment the bailiff called, All rise! Chairs scraped, voices hushed, and Mark Walker's pulse hammered against his ribs. The air felt too tight, too sharp, as if the walls themselves were judging him. He stood stiffly beside his attorney, sweat breaking across his forehead. His eyes darted around the room, searching for control he no longer possessed. Every second felt like someone squeezing a fist around his throat. And then Emily entered. The noise dropped instantly. She walked in with quiet confidence. Simple clothes, calm face, steady pace. There was no anger in her eyes, no fear, no hesitation. She looked like a woman who had accepted the end long before this moment. By her side was Sarah Collins, her lawyer and closest friend. Smart, sharp, mid-30s, known in several legal circles for being unshakable. Sarah carried a stack of folders and a laptop bag that was far heavier in meaning than weight. Emily took her seat with perfect composure. The intensity of the room swelled, then softened into tense silence as the judge entered. Everyone sat. The case began. Sarah stood first. Your Honor, today we will present evidence of Mrs. Walker's financial independence, the separate nature of her assets, and a detailed accounting showing Mr. Walker contributed nothing to the accumulation of that wealth during the marriage. Mark shifted uncomfortably. His attorney, Mr. Davis, whispered, "Stay calm." Emily remained still. Sarah opened the first folder. Inside were copies of company formation documents, LLC certificates, operating agreements, trust records, all under Emily's maiden name, Hayes, dated from before the company ever generated profit, before Mark was involved in anything related to it, and supported by separate bank accounts that never mixed with his. Sarah spoke clearly. Emily Hayes Walker is the founder and sole owner of Hayes Tech Solutions, currently valued at $150 million. A gasp spread across the courtroom. Mark's stomach dropped so fast he nearly stumbled. He blinked, confused, angry, helpless. She what? He muttered. Sarah continued, unfazed. We will also show that all household assets Mr. Walker believed belonged to him were purchased with Mrs. Walker's separate funding through her trust, not from any income of his. She handed the judge a packet of title deeds, each showing Emily's trust in bold as the owner, with records from years ago. The judge scanned them quietly. Sarah pressed on. Additionally, Your Honor, we will present evidence of Mr. Walker's financial misuse, funds withdrawn from joint accounts for non-marital purposes. Mark's heartbeat exploded in his ears. Non-marital. He knew what that meant. Lily. Sarah connected her laptop to the court monitor. The screen lit up with bank statements, scrolling transfers, digital fingerprints linking Mark to Lily Adams. Mark lunged forward, panic rising. Wait, this is taken out of context. Sarah didn't even look at him. Next, she displayed screenshots of the messages. Are you coming tonight? She won't know. I need you more than her. Mark's face drained of color. Those aren't... Sarah spoke peacefully. The phone records came from his unlocked device, Your Honor, and the account from which he sent the money was funded entirely by Mrs. Walker's separate income. Emily didn't turn toward Mark. She didn't glare. She didn't smirk. She simply watched the evidence roll out like quiet truth finally given oxygen. Mark's attorney tried to speak. Your Honor, Mr. Walker disputes the... But the judge raised a hand. Mr. Walker, were you aware that your wife funded your entire lifestyle for years? Mark's mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. She's just a housewife, he blurted. A sharp wave of disapproval rippled through the room. Even the bailiff squinted as if the words offended the lighting. Emily looked down, calm, as if she had expected this exact sentence. The judge leaned forward. That housewife, Mr. Walker, appears, based on the documents before me, to be the sole financial provider in your marriage. Her company and trust were structured and funded as her separate estate, and there is no record of your contribution. Mark felt the room shrinking, trapping him. His chest tightened. She hid things from me. She tricked me. Sarah cut in immediately. It is not a trick to build a company while being ignored, Your Honor. She disclosed none of this to him because he never asked, and because the law does not require her to hand over control of separate property to a spouse who does not contribute. Judge, enough. Mark clamped his mouth shut, but Sarah wasn't done. She reached into her bag and pulled out a thick, heavy folder. Its edges were sharp, its meaning sharper. She handed it directly to Mark's attorney. Mr. Davis frowned as he read the label. Domestically aggressive incidents. Witnesses listed. Mark's heart stopped. His attorney's face went pale. Sarah spoke softly, but every word hit like steel. These are witness statements documenting a pattern of controlling and aggressive behavior toward my client. Emily sat still, eyes lowered. Mark's hand shook as he reached for the folder. Inside were names, dates, short descriptions from neighbors, extended family, and one surprising signature from someone he never expected. Marcia Walker, his own sister. His vision blurred. His world, once loud, confident, arrogant, collapsed into a quiet, cold realization. Emily had walked into this courtroom already 10 steps ahead, and as the judge prepared the final set of questions, something waited behind Sarah's laptop, a piece of evidence not yet revealed, a recording Emily had never shown anyone, not even Sarah. The phone exploded with sound, a non-stop stream of angry buzzing that echoed across the small apartment Lily stayed in. She jumped at the intensity, the vibrations almost rattling the table as Mark's name flashed again and again. "Stop calling me," she hissed under her breath, snatching the phone up. She didn't answer. Not yet. Not until she finished reading the news alert her friend had sent her, the one that froze her stomach and sent a cold wave through her body. High-value divorce case reveals husband lived off wife's fortune. Her heart hit her ribs. Her breath stopped. Mark wasn't rich. He wasn't stable. He wasn't even surviving on his own. He had been living off a woman. And not just any woman, Emily. Lily's hands trembled as she scrolled deeper into the article. Everything Mark told her, the stories of his stress, his responsibility, his supportive role, all lies. The article laid it out clearly. Emily's company, Emily's trust, Emily's house, Mark's misuse of funds. Her phone buzzed again. "Mark," she answered this time, voice sharp. "What is this? Why is your name all over the news?" Mark's voice came fast, frantic. "Lily, it's not what it looks like. Emily is lying. She set me up. You know I'm the one who handled things." She stood up straight, jaw tight. "Handled what? You told me you were the provider. You said you were the one building everything." "I was. At least I was supposed to be." "Lily, please, I just need you. I lost access to my accounts, but it's temporary. I'll fix it." "Just stay." "Temporary?" she repeated, bitterness rising. "You can't even pay your phone bill. I had to send you money last week." His silence was loud. Then Lily said the words that cut him deeper than anything Emily had done. "I'm not going down with a man who lied about everything." "Lily, don't do this. Lily." But she ended the call, blocked him. The phone went silent. Images rushed through her mind in a fast, painful flashback. Mark handing her expensive gifts paid for with Emily's money. Mark taking her out to dinners Emily unknowingly funded. Mark promising he'd take care of her soon, once his business landed. Mark leaning in close, whispering that she was special, while spending another woman's earnings. The truth tasted bitter. She grabbed her purse, pacing the room. Every step felt like a mix of anger and shame twisting together. Then she stopped, looked at her phone, touched the screen carefully. For a long moment, she hesitated, then typed a message to a number she had never contacted before. She had found it in the article's business section, listed under public contact details for Hayes Tech Solutions. Emily's business line. Her fingers moved with cold clarity as she typed, "I don't want him. You can have this trash back." She pressed send. Across town, Emily sat at her desk, reviewing new legal documents with calm, steady focus. Her phone buzzed once. She glanced down, saw the name, read the message. Her expression didn't change, not even a blink. She quietly set the phone face down and returned to her paperwork. Her voice, low and steady, barely above a whisper. Pieces fall exactly where they belong. And as she turned the page, another silent document waited at the top of the stack. The one that would finalize Mark's removal from the house entirely and give her exclusive right to live there alone. Months after the first court hearing, the shouting hit the front yard before the police car even stopped. Mark's voice tore through the air, wild and desperate, as two officers stepped out and walked toward him. "You can't do this! This is my house, my home!" "No, sir," the lead officer said firmly. By order of the court, exclusive occupancy of this property belongs to Emily Hayes Walker. You were served notice weeks ago. Today is your removal date. Mark's rage collapsed into panic. Where am I supposed to go? He yelled, voice cracking. This is unfair. She's lying. She planned this. Inside the house, Emily heard every word, but she didn't flinch. She didn't rush to the window. She didn't hide. She simply tied her hair back with a small band, picked up her purse, and stepped into the hallway. The intensity outside was loud, fierce, overwhelming. But inside her chest, everything was calm. The storm had already passed. This was only the cleanup. She opened the door gently. Mark spun toward her, face red, eyes burning. Emily, tell them to stop. Tell them this house is ours. Her voice was soft, steady. It was never ours, Mark. Mark stepped closer, but one of the officers held up a hand. Mark froze. Emily's eyes didn't hold anger. They held closure. You lived here, she said, but you never saw it. You never cared how it was paid for, or who carried the weight. You just assumed it belonged to you. Mark's breath shook. I can change. Just let me inside, please. His mother and father, who had come that morning to support him and help him pack a few things, rushed across the yard next, stumbling over themselves to reach her. His mother grabbed Emily's arm. Emily, sweet girl, listen, she begged. You don't have to do this. Think about the family. Emily didn't pull away. She didn't argue. She didn't respond at all. Mark's father stepped forward, hands shaking. We made mistakes. We were hard on you. Don't leave him standing out here like this. Again, Emily stayed silent. She looked at them, then at Mark, with a calmness so complete it silenced every plea. The moment stretched like a thin line, delicate, final. Then she stepped past them. No one stopped her. She walked to her car, slipped into the driver's seat and started the engine. The noise from the yard faded behind the closed doors. Mark shouting her name, his family pleading, officers holding him back as they explained, again, that he had to leave the premises today. She stared straight ahead. A slow breath left her lungs. Then her voice, quiet as a whisper, filled the car, carrying the last truth she would ever give him. When you treat a woman as if she's nothing, you should pray she actually is. She put the car in drive and pulled away without looking back. Minutes later, she parked in front of a sleek glass building with a large silver logo across the entrance. Hayes Tech Solutions. Her building. Her empire. The world she built while everyone underestimated her. As she stepped out of the car, the atmosphere felt different. Clean, open, full of possibility. Staff members in the lobby straightened when they saw her walking toward the entrance. A young receptionist, new, nervous, but eager, rushed forward with wide eyes. Good morning, Ms. Hayes, she said, voice full of respect. Welcome back. Emily smiled faintly, soft, knowing, whole. For the first time in years, she felt like her name fit her again. She walked through the lobby, past glass walls and open offices, each step steady and full of quiet power. She reached the elevator, pressed the button, and waited as the doors slid open with a smooth hum. She entered, turned around, and looked out through the lobby's wide windows. Far beyond the roads, far beyond the traffic, far beyond the noise. Mark Walker sat on the curb outside a house he no longer had a right to enter, head in his hands, life in pieces around him. The elevator doors closed. The world shifted, and Emily Hayes rose. She walked into her top-floor office moments later, the view wide and clear behind her. Her assistant placed a stack of new contracts on her desk. Emily touched the top file, the paper crisp beneath her fingers. A small, quiet smile grew on her lips. Not from revenge, from freedom. A new beginning waited for her, sharp, bright, and open. And just as she prepared to sign the next deal of her life, a soft vibration from her phone lit up the screen. A new opportunity, a new partnership, a new chapter, because her story was far from over. I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as I enjoyed creating it. Like, share, and comment on the lessons you've learned. Let me know where you're watching from in the comments below. See you in my next video. Unaware his wife had just inherited a billion-dollar company, husband beat her in their living room and called her a disappointment. What she did next shocked him. He didn't just raise his voice. He stood in the middle of his own living room, drunk, shaking with anger, and called the woman who had been quietly carrying his whole life on her shoulders a disappointment. Seconds before his hand struck her face and sent her crashing into the edge of the coffee table. Days earlier, Emma Collins had been kneeling alone in their dim garage, her hands trembling as she opened a thick envelope from a private estate firm. Inside were words that didn't feel real. Sole heir, transfer of control, conglomerate assets. The small repair shop she grew up around had become a billion-dollar company, and on paper it now belonged to her. But when she walked back into that house, she didn't feel like an heiress. She felt small, grieving, afraid of the man who slammed doors upstairs and blamed her for every bill. So she slid the envelope under a stack of old spare tires, hiding a billion-dollar legacy inches from the car he drove every day. Mark never asked how her day went. He didn't know about the inheritance. All he saw was a quiet wife, a messy bank account, and a string of secret messages with another woman saved in his phone as B that made him feel wanted and important. In his mind, Emma was the problem, lazy, unambitious, dragging him down. "You're useless. You don't help. You're a burden. A disappointment," he shouted just before his palm met her cheek. He thought she was trapped. He thought she was powerless. He thought no one would ever believe her over him. What he never imagined was this. The woman he had just beaten on his own living room floor was already starting to record everything. His words, her bruises, even the messages from B. And somewhere in a calm office across town, the lawyer who once handled her father's business was ready to turn that hidden envelope in her quiet evidence into the one move that would finally shock him into seeing who she really was. Dear viewers, thank you for being here. If you watch without subscribing, it's like letting Emma's story fade back into silence. When you click that button, you stand with every person who was called a disappointment right before they rose. Please subscribe now, and in the comments, tell me where you're watching from. The sound hits first, sharp, sudden, like something breaking inside the walls. Emma Collins flinches so hard the pen slips from her fingers. Her heart jumps before her mind understands. It's only Mark, her husband, slamming the bedroom door upstairs. Again. For a moment, she sits frozen at her small workspace in the living room, breath caught in her throat. The intensity of the noise presses against her chest, reminding her how easily the peace in this house can collapse in seconds. Then she forces herself to breathe, slowly, carefully, like someone who has learned to make quiet her shield. Emma, 28, soft-spoken and steady, returns to her work. Design drafts for a project she hopes will bring in enough money to cover next month's bills. She has always been the calm one, the one who smooths the edges, the one who learned from her father that strength isn't loud, Emma. It's consistent. Her father's voice has followed her through every year of her life, especially since he passed away 8 months ago. He raised her alone after her mother left when Emma was a child. He built a small business from nothing, a repair shop that slowly expanded into something much larger. Even as a girl, she watched him work late nights, restoring old tools, drawing plans, meeting investors, building dreams. She didn't know then that the company he built would grow far beyond what she ever imagined. She didn't know one day it would all be hers. Near the end of his life, he started sending her things, documents, printouts, emails she never fully opened, some letters, some legal forms, some unread messages from firms with names she didn't recognize, preparations she kept putting aside, telling herself she wasn't ready. Her grief sits like a small stone in her chest every morning. Upstairs, Mark grumbles loudly. He is 32, her husband of 4 years, a man with charm that fades quickly once he's comfortable. He wakes late, complains often, and his temper carries a sharpness that feels harmless at first glance, until it doesn't. He used to be sweet. He used to smile when she smiled, but lately he only seems annoyed by her presence, by her quiet routines, by the softness he once claimed to love. Mark thunders down the stairs, rubbing his face. "You still working?" "Emma, honestly, you need to start pulling your weight. I can't do everything." His words slice cleanly, not loud enough to be explosive, but sharp enough to bruise. Emma lowers her eyes. She wants to remind him that she does work, that she tries every day, that design gigs don't always pay consistently. She wants to explain how she's been trying to step up since her father's death, but she swallows it. Her father once said, "Some people mistake kindness for weakness, but you'll show them differently someday." Emma reaches toward the framed photo of her father next to her laptop, just for comfort, but stops. Mark notices it every time and always complains it clutters the space, so she slides it quietly into the drawer before he can see. "Good," he mutters, passing behind her. "This place looks cleaner without that old picture." Her fingers curl under the desk where he can't see. Her phone buzzes. The screen flashes a name. Attorney Hayes. Emma stiffens, panic whispering against her thoughts. She quickly turns the phone face down. She tells herself she's not ready. Not yet. The paperwork her father left behind and the calls from the lawyer still scare her. The lawyer checks in every few weeks about finalizing the estate transition. Something about control, something about assets, things that sound too big for the small life she's living here. And for now, none of it has changed their day-to-day struggles. The estate is still processing. The bills still coming the same. Mark glances at the phone with suspicion. "Who's that?" "No one. Spam." Her voice stays even, years of practice. He shrugs, not fully convinced, but too tired to push. "I'm going back upstairs. Try not to make noise." He walks off, already complaining under his breath. Emma waits until she hears the bedroom door close again. Then she stands, stretching her cramped fingers, and steps outside to check the mailbox. Small moments of fresh air are her relief. The afternoon is quiet, calm, safe. She opens the metal box and sorts through the envelopes. Bills, ads, a grocery coupon. Then her breath stops. A thick envelope sits at the bottom. Heavy, official-looking, stamped with the seal of a private estate firm, the same name she saw in some of those emails she couldn't face. Her hand begins to tremble. She knows that name. Her father mentioned it once in a whisper when the doctor left the hospital room. A firm that handled large transitions involving things she still could not fully understand. Her stomach drops. Mark's footsteps echo faintly behind her. He must have come back downstairs. Instinct kicks in, fierce and fast. Emma slides the envelope into the pocket of her cardigan just as the front door opens beside her. "What's taking you so long?" Mark asks, stepping onto the porch. Emma turns toward him with a small, practiced smile. "Just junk mail," she says lightly. "I was tossing some flyers." Nothing in her expression reveals the truth, hiding inches from his eyes. He grunts, already bored. "Fine, come inside, I'm starving." He walks back in without waiting for her. Emma stands there for one more heartbeat, the envelope heavy against her side. Deep inside, something begins to shift, quietly, dangerously, like the first whisper of a secret she can no longer avoid. The envelope almost slips from Emma's hands when she reaches the garage door, because the moment she closes it behind her, Mark's voice explodes from inside the house. "Emma, where did you go?" The sound crashes through the hallway like a warning bell, sharp enough to make her heart stumble. Her pulse jumps, fear rising fast and instinctive, the way it always does when his tone shifts from annoyance to something colder. She presses her back to the garage door and holds the envelope tight against her chest, breathing hard, desperate for even a second of silence. Then the house quiets. Footsteps fade. A door slams upstairs again. Only then does Emma's body loosen enough for her to move. It's later that same afternoon, but the garage feels like another world. Dim, warm from the last sunlight of the day. Tools and storage boxes lined neatly along the walls. Her father's order, still preserved from the days he visited and insisted on keeping things tidy. She closes her eyes for a brief moment, grounding herself. This is the only place Mark rarely enters. The only place that still feels like hers. Emma moves deeper into the garage and kneels beside a workbench. With shaking fingers, she pulls the thick envelope from her cardigan and opens it. Her breath stops. Inside are documents sealed with embossed stamps, signatures from attorneys, and a letter addressed to Emma Collins, sole heir. The words blur as tears fill her eyes. Memory rises fast and sharp. Her father in a hospital bed, his skin pale, his breathing shallow, but his eyes warm and full of pride. She remembers sitting beside him, holding his hand, trying not to cry. His voice had been soft, almost fading, yet still solid in the way only he could be. "There's something I've been preparing for you, for years." He squeezed her hand. "Don't let anyone dim your light, Emma. Not even the people you love." She didn't understand then. She thought he was reassuring her because he knew Mark could be critical sometimes. She thought he meant she should keep following her dreams, keep designing, keep living gently. But now, as she unfolds the next page, she sees it clearly. She inherited everything. Her father's company, an empire built from a single repair shop he grew step by step over 30 years. Branches across the country, contract deals, investments, employees, partnerships. A number sits at the bottom of the letter, a value estimate. Her lips part, but no sound comes out. Over $1 billion. Her eyes slide down to key phrases. Transfer of control, conglomerate assets, board transition schedule. Not everything is written in simple terms, but she understands enough. This isn't cash sitting in a bank. This is a company shares, contracts, power, responsibility, legacy. Money she can't just pull out overnight. A life that looks nothing like the one she's living with Mark right now. She presses a hand over her mouth as a sob escapes. Not from joy, not from excitement, but grief. She misses him. She misses the safety of his voice, the steadiness of his steps, the way he always knew when she was struggling, even when she tried to hide it. She misses the warmth that filled a room when he walked in. She wipes her tears, trying to breathe again. For a moment, her mind races in panic. How can she explain this to Mark? He has been stressed about money for months. He blames her for every bill, every setback, every argument. If he learns about this, she doesn't even know what he would do. She can barely imagine it without feeling her stomach twist. She whispers to herself, a broken, trembling sound. How do I even tell him? How do I tell someone who thinks I'm nothing, that I'm now in charge of something so big? Her fingers tighten around the papers until the edges press into her palms. She forces herself to fold the documents neatly and slip them back into the envelope. She cannot think clearly now. She needs time. She needs to breathe. She needs Emma! Mark's voice explodes again, closer this time. The garage door handle jiggles. She jolts to her feet, heart hammering in her throat. She looks around desperately. Her eyes land on an old stack of spare tires along the wall, perfectly hollow in the middle from years of storage. She quickly slides the envelope beneath the lowest one, tucking it deep enough that only she would think to reach for it. She stands just as the door flies open. Mark steps into the doorway, brows pulled tight, eyes narrowing as he scans her face. "What are you doing out here? Why are you acting weird?" Emma forces a steady breath. "I just needed air." He takes 2 steps closer, suspicion sliding across his expression. "Air? In the garage." Her heart slams against her ribs. His gaze drifts around the room slowly, searching, watching, measuring. Then his attention snaps back to her. "What?" he asks again, voice low and sharp. "Are you hiding?" Outside, wind brushes against the door, soft, like a whisper of something shifting. And somewhere deep inside the garage, under a stack of tires, the sealed envelope waits like a sleeping storm ready to break open. 2 evenings later, Mark slams the front door so hard the picture frames on the wall tremble. The sound crashes through the house like a bolt of thunder. Emma startles, nearly dropping the bowl she is carrying to the dinner table. Her heart kicks painfully against her ribs. He storms into the kitchen, jaw tight, eyes sharp, skin flushed with frustration. "I lost the contract," he snaps before she can even speak. "They gave it to someone else, a rookie. Can you believe that?" His voice fills every corner of the kitchen, crowding out the quiet warmth Emma had tried to build while preparing dinner. She places the bowl down slowly, steadying her breath. "I'm sorry, Mark. I know you worked hard for it." "That doesn't help," he snaps. "Nothing helps." He yanks open a cabinet, grabs a plate, and slams it onto the counter. The noise cuts the air again, and Emma's shoulders rise instinctively. Intensity softens. He drags a hand through his hair, sighs heavily, then mutters, "Sorry, it's just, everything feels wrong today." Emma gives him a small, gentle nod. She has seen this pattern before. Rage first, apology next. She always forgives. She always tries again, because she still believes that love should be patient, soft, and understanding. It was how her father treated her, how he taught her to love others. Mark sits at the table, immediately picking at the food with a frown. "It's cold," he mutters. "It just came off the stove," she answers softly. "I can reheat it." "No," he says, pushing the plate away. "Forget it." He stands abruptly and starts pacing the room, irritation spilling from him in sharp lines. "It's like this house is cursed," he grumbles. "The bills, the repairs, my job falling apart. If we had real money, things would be different." Emma freezes. The world seems to narrow around that one sentence, because she knows something he doesn't, something she is still trying to process herself, something she hasn't even said aloud. A billion-dollar empire sits hidden inside the garage, folded beneath spare tires. Her breath tightens. For a second, she almost tells him, almost opens her mouth to say, "Mark, I do have something to tell you." But fear seizes her. The memory of his temper stops her. The way he snapped at her in the garage. The way his suspicion lingers even when he pretends to let things go. She turns back to the sink, pretending to wash a dish. She says nothing, and Mark doesn't notice the battle happening inside her. He keeps ranting, waving his hands as if trying to push away invisible problems. "Everything is on me. Always on me. You should help more, Emma. You could be more ambitious. Do something bigger. Try harder." The words sting, even though she's heard versions of them before. Emma works. She tries. She carries the quiet weight of their life, even more so since her father died. She never says it out loud, but the effort exhausts her. Mark's voice shifts again, softer but still edged. "I didn't mean it like that, okay?" he says. "I'm just stressed." Emma nods, as she always does. "I understand." The air calms. The storm passes. For a moment, they eat in uneasy silence. But underneath that quiet sits something else, something new. Emma feels it like a thin crack running along a glass surface, small enough that no one sees it yet, but she feels it. After dinner, Mark goes to the couch and turns on the TV. Emma stays in the kitchen, wiping down the counter, trying to steady her thoughts. She needs a plan. She needs time. She needs strength she isn't sure she has yet. When she steps into the living room, Mark is on his phone. His expression shifts quickly, neutral to guarded in one blink. Her eyes catch a glimpse before he tilts the screen away. A text, from someone saved as B. Mark's thumb moves quickly, hiding the message. He locks the screen and clears his throat. "Just work stuff." But his tone is too fast, too clipped. A small ache forms in Emma's chest. Not jealousy yet, just a quiet dread. A whisper that something is wrong. Something is shifting between them. Something she can't name yet. Mark stands. "I'm going upstairs. Don't stay up too late." He walks away without looking back. Emma stands alone in the room, the glow of the television flickering across her face. Something cold curls at the edge of her thoughts, like a shadow stretching wider. Somewhere inside her, she senses that the cracks she's been ignoring are about to widen, and tomorrow may not bring the comfort she's hoping for. The argument explodes before dinner even reaches the table. Mark slams his phone onto the counter so hard the salt shaker jumps. "For once," he snaps, "can we have a normal night? Or is that too much to ask?" Emma freezes mid-step, holding two plates, her hands trembling. His outburst slices through the soft routine she tried to create, turning the kitchen into a storm zone. The same sharp energy from the night he lost the contract returns, heavy, unpredictable, only worse now that the days of tension have stacked on top of each other. "Mark, I didn't say anything." Her voice is calm, gentle, the same tone she uses whenever he spirals. "It's your face," he mutters, grabbing his plate anyway. "You always look like something's wrong." She wants to tell him something is wrong. Something is breaking. Something inside her is carrying secrets too big, too heavy, too dangerous to release all at once. But instead, she places his plate on the table with quiet hands. The intensity slowly settles into a tired silence. They sit across from each other, the clink of utensils the only sound in the room. Emma gathers her courage, gripping her napkin, trying to keep her voice steady. Mark, there's something I need to tell you. Something about my... He cuts her off instantly, eyes glued to his glowing phone screen. Hold on, he mutters, thumb moving fast. I'm in the middle of something important. Emma's throat tightens. She watches him type. Quick, secretive, guarded. The same name flashes at the top of the phone. B. Her chest aches. She doesn't want to assume the worst. She doesn't want to imagine the truth twisting behind his backlit screen. But the suspicion has been growing like a shadow, silent but undeniable. Still, she tries again, quieter. It's about my dad. He doesn't look up. Can we not talk about your father again? He's gone, Emma. Move on. The words hit her like a slap. Her breath falters. Her eyes sting instantly. She looks down at her lap, blinking fast to stop the tears. The room blurs. His voice becomes distant, and suddenly her memory pulls her backward. Years earlier, to a small shop filled with the scent of wood and oil. She is 8 years old, handing her father nails as he rebuilds the shelves in their store. He is younger then, broad-shouldered, gentle-eyed, wearing the smile he saved only for her. Dad, is this enough? She asks, lifting the small box. He smiles warmly. More than enough, sweetheart. She watches him hammer, watches the way he works with patience, focus, humility, steady hands, steady heart. A customer had insulted him earlier, saying he was just a repairman. She saw the hurt in his eyes even though he hid it. As he wipes his forehead, he kneels beside her. Listen, Emma, he says softly, anyone who makes you feel small doesn't deserve you. Ever. She nods, tucking the words into her heart. The memory fades. Emma finds herself back at the dinner table, staring at the man who once held her so gently, now too busy texting someone named B to even hear her voice. She swallows hard, placing her hands in her lap, steadying her breath. The pacing slows, deepening the ache in her chest. Mark finally sets his phone down and stands. I'm stepping outside, he says. Need air. Before she can respond, he's already walking to the back door. Emma sits in silence, her heartbeat echoing in her ears. The weight of everything she's holding, the hidden billion-dollar inheritance, the fear of his temper, the suspicion of his secrets, presses hard against her ribs. She hears his footsteps on the patio. She doesn't mean to follow. She only wants a glass of water. But the window by the sink is open, and his voice cuts through clearly. Yeah, babe, she's clueless, he murmurs into the phone. His voice is low, relaxed, almost affectionate. Nothing like the harsh tone he uses with her. Just give me a little more time. I'll prove I'm serious. I'll file and show you everything's done. Emma's fingers go numb. The glass slips from her hand and clinks softly into the sink. Her world shifts. Everything she has been afraid to admit becomes undeniable in that moment. He isn't just hiding messages. He is making plans. Plans that don't include her. She leans against the counter, breath shaking, her heart breaking in a slow, heavy silence. Somewhere outside, Mark laughs lightly, soft, secretive, intimate, and inside Emma, a new kind of stillness forms. A stillness that feels like the beginning of a storm. Quietly, something tells her that tomorrow might shatter even more than tonight's silence. The next night, Mark crashes through the front door so violently that the wall shakes behind it. The sound ricochets through the whole house, loud enough to make Emma's breath stop mid-inhale. She was sitting on the edge of the couch, hands folded tightly, rehearsing her words for the 10th time. His footsteps stagger across the floor, heavy and uneven. He's drunk. He tosses his jacket to the ground and kicks it aside. His eyes are clouded, his face tense, jaw twitching with anger he hasn't named yet. The air around him feels dangerous, like a storm rolling in too fast. Emma rises slowly from the couch. Mark, we need to talk. The intensity in the room clamps tighter. He whips toward her so fast she flinches. Oh, now you want to talk? He spits. Now? His voice isn't just sharp, it's jagged. She swallows and takes a careful step back. It's important. It's about money, about my dad's. Mark laughs, short, bitter, humorless. Of course it is, because your timing is always perfect, isn't it? He stumbles onto the couch, rubbing his forehead hard. His phone lights up beside him. A message flashes across the screen, bright and clear. B, you said you would tell her soon. I need proof you're actually leaving. Emma's stomach twists. She knows what that means. She knows he has been planning a life without her. Mark grabs the phone before she can look too long. He turns it face down, breathing harshly. I'm tired, he mutters. Tired of being judged. Emma doesn't raise her voice. She never does. Mark, I heard you outside last night. I heard what you said. I just need to understand. That is the spark that ignites him. He shoots up from the couch, fury exploding through him. Oh, so this is what this is about, he yells. You spying on me? Listening through doors like a paranoid child? I wasn't spying, she whispers. I heard you by accident. I just want us to talk honestly, Mark. Honestly? His voice cracks into a harsh laugh. You can't handle honesty, Emma. You can't handle anything. He steps toward her, and she steps back. Her heart pounds like it's trying to break free from her chest. Mark, no! He points at her, jabbing the air. Don't talk. You never talk. You just sit there like a ghost in this house. A burden. A disappointment. The words hit harder than the volume, because they are said with full intention, full belief. Emma feels her vision blur, but she stays still, silent. He grabs her wrist suddenly, too tight, and jerks her forward. Look at me when I talk to you. Her breath catches. Pain shoots up her arm. She tries to pull away, gently at first, then with more urgency. Mark, let go. But he doesn't. Stress, alcohol, the fear of losing control, the pressure from the woman texting him, all of it twists him into someone unrecognizable. You want honesty? He growls. Here it is. I'm sick of this life. Sick of you dragging everything down. You can't even keep this house right. You can't help me. You can barely help yourself. Her voice breaks in a small, trembling whisper. I've been trying. Trying? He shouts. Trying isn't enough. He shoves her backward. She hits the corner of the coffee table hard. Pain shoots across her back. She gasps, falling to the floor. Before she can sit up, he slaps her across the face. Sharp, fast, fueled by rage and desperation. The room echoes with the sound. For a long moment, everything freezes. The world goes silent. Emma doesn't scream. She doesn't cry. She doesn't move. She just stares at him, hollow, empty, as if something inside her has cracked too deeply to show emotion. Mark stands above her, panting, chest heaving. He rubs his face hard, as if realizing what he just did, but not enough to apologize, not enough to change, not enough to care. Get up, he mutters, voice flat. Don't lay there like a victim. I can't deal with this right now. He stumbles away, grabbing his phone, cursing under his breath as he disappears into the bedroom. Emma stays on the floor, palms pressed against the wood, her breath unsteady, her cheek burning. Slowly her eyes drift toward the hallway, toward the garage, toward the hidden envelope under the spare tires. Her body shakes, but not from fear anymore, from awakening. From clarity, the inheritance, the company, her father's legacy. It rises in her mind suddenly, sharply, like a light cutting through darkness. Her heartbeat steadies. Her breath slows. Something in her shifts from helplessness into something colder, quieter, stronger. And in the back of her mind, a single thought whispers, steady and clear. Tomorrow everything changes. Emma jerks awake to the sound of a loud crash. Something glass shatters in the living room, followed by Mark's irritated groan. Her heart slams into her ribs, and for a split second, she can't breathe. The memory of the slap, the shove, the fall, it all hits her again like a fresh bruise. She sits up slowly on the bedroom floor where she slept last night, because she couldn't bear to lie beside him. At some point after he passed out, she had dragged a pillow and blanket to the corner, choosing the hard floor over his side of the bed. Her cheek throbs when she touches it. Her back stings from the table's corner. The intensity of last night hangs in the air like smoke. Mark curses from the living room. Stupid lamp, always breaking. She freezes, listening. His voice isn't focused on her, not yet, but it's heavy, careless, irritated, the kind of tone that warns her not to step into the room just yet. She stands quietly, every movement slow and calculated, her body sore. She steps into the bathroom and closes the door soundlessly, turning the lock with practiced care. This time she doesn't cry. She lifts her shirt and stares at the bruises forming across her ribs. Purplish marks bloom across her skin, like painful reminders of how far things have gone. She takes a long breath, steady and slow. Then she picks up her phone. The intensity fades into cold focus. She lifts the camera and takes photos. Front, side, close-up, full set. Her hands shake only slightly. She moves with calm precision, as if something inside her has finally clicked into place. Next, she plays his voicemails, those angry ones he left days ago when she didn't reply fast enough or didn't answer a call. She saves them, labels them. Then she opens the screenshots she took weeks ago of his text from B when he left his phone unattended on the kitchen counter. Messages about plans, meeting, being patient, and proof you're leaving. She saves them all into a secure folder, uploading copies to a cloud account only she can access. Her breathing deepens with every step. This isn't fear anymore. It's strategy. A soft flashback rises, slow and warm. She is 16 again, sitting at her father's large desk. He is showing her how he keeps records, business logs, client notes, signed agreements. "Why do you save all these?" young Emma asks. Her father smiles and taps a thick binder. "Truth is strongest when recorded. People lie, memories fade, but evidence speaks clearly." She nods, absorbing every word. "Someday this will help you more than you know." The memory fades. Her father had been right about everything. Emma closes the folder on her phone and finally takes a slow breath. Her cheek still burns, but her spirit doesn't tremble anymore. She steps out of the bathroom. Mark is in the living room with the TV on, feet on the table, laughing at something on the screen. A broken lamp lies in the trash. He doesn't even look at her. He doesn't know. He has no idea. Emma walks quietly past him, her eyes cold and distant. She enters the garage, closing the door behind her. Her hands reach for her phone again. For a brief moment, she hesitates, not from doubt, but from the weight of what she's about to begin. Then she presses a contact already saved in her phone. "Attorney Hayes," a voice answers. Calm, steady, masculine. Familiar now from missed calls and short messages about estate matters. "Emma, it's Carter," he says. "Are you all right?" "It happened," she whispers. "I need your help." The voice replies, low and firm, all business and quiet concern. "I'm here. Tell me everything." Emma nods, tears finally gathering. But they are different tears now. Not weakness, release. After the call, she kneels beside the spare tires and reaches underneath, fingers trembling for the first time. She pulls out the thick inheritance envelope and carries it to a small stool. She sits. She opens the envelope again. She lays the evidence beside it. Photos, screenshots, recordings. Two worlds she has kept apart now placed side by side. Her father's empire. Mark's secrets. Her bruises. Her truth. She places her hand over the papers and whispers to the empty garage. "It's time." And somewhere deep inside the house, Mark laughs again, clueless that her silence is no longer fear, but the beginning of his end. Emma rushes through the glass doors so fast she almost collides with the receptionist's desk. Her breath comes in short, sharp bursts, her hands shaking from everything she's holding inside. The building is quiet, too quiet, and the sudden silence feels like a slap. The receptionist looks up in surprise, then recognition. "Emma Collins?" Emma nods quickly, clutching her folder to her chest like a lifeline. Her cheek is still faintly bruised. Her ribs ache every time she inhales. The receptionist's expression softens, but she doesn't ask questions. She simply stands and guides Emma down the hallway. Every step feels like stepping out of one world and into another. They stop at a closed door with a small nameplate. Attorney Carter Hayes. The receptionist knocks once and opens it. "Mr. Hayes, your appointment is here." Inside the office stands a man in his early 40s. Carter Hayes. Calm eyes, clean suit. The kind of person who carries quiet authority. He steps forward, extending a hand. "Emma, I'm Carter. We've spoken briefly on the phone. Your father trusted me, and I want you to know, you're safe here." The words hit her harder than they should. She nods. trying not to cry. He motions for her to sit. Tell me what happened. All of it. She opens her folder with trembling fingers. Photos, screenshots, voicemails, the inheritance envelope. Carter watches silently, giving her the space to breathe before forcing her to speak. Once everything is laid out between them, she finally whispers, "He hurt me, and he's seeing someone else." A muscle in Carter's jaw tightens. He nods slowly. "Emma, this is more than enough for protection. You have strong grounds for charges and for divorce." Her stomach knots. "I've never filed anything like that. I don't even know how to begin." "That's why you're here." Carter leans forward. "We'll file a restraining order first, then the divorce. We'll also file a police report to document the assault. We'll secure your financial independence and your safety." She hesitates, then reaches for the inheritance papers. "There's something else you need to see." She hands him the envelope. Carter begins reading. His expression shifts. Confusion first, then recognition, then shock. He looks up slowly, disbelief in his eyes. "Emma, do you understand what this means?" She shakes her head. "Only parts of it." He leans back, exhaling hard. "Your father didn't just own a company. He built an empire. This document confirms you're the sole heir. As of last month, you own one of the largest corporate groups in the country." The words land like thunder. Emma sits frozen, absorbing the truth she has been afraid to face. All her father's lessons, all his late nights, all his secrets. They were preparing her for this moment. "My father wanted me to have a strong life," she whispers. "Not this." "That's exactly why he planned this," Carter says softly. "He trusted you more than you realize." He sets the papers down and folds his hands. But then his expression shifts again, this time darker. "Emma, there's something else you need to know." Her spine straightens. "What?" Carter sighs. "Mark has already spoken to several lawyers." Her heartbeat spikes. "Why?" "He contacted them in a rush over the last week," Carter explains. "He told them you are unstable, emotional, unpredictable since your father died. He tried to get ahead of any story you might tell." Emma feels cold inside, a kind of cold she has never felt before. "He wants to turn everything against me." "Some of those attorneys recognized your name from the estate transition. A few called me directly to warn me," Carter adds. "He's building a false story, likely to protect himself or to reach your inheritance." "That's why we act now," he says firmly. "We hit first." She looks down at the documents spread across the desk. Her bruises, Mark's messages, her father's legacy, her own strength rising from somewhere deep. Carter places two sets of papers in front of her. Restraining order petition, divorce filing. His voice is steady. "If you sign this, we begin today." Emma picks up the pen. For the first time in days, her hand doesn't shake. She signs line after line, with a steady hand. Carter gathers the papers, his expression firm. "I'll have these filed immediately. We'll also coordinate with your company's security team to support you at home." Emma stands slowly, feeling the first true breath of freedom push into her chest. And as she turns toward the door, the faint vibration of her phone echoes in her pocket. Mark's name glowing on the screen, trying to reach her again. A quiet voice inside her whispers that soon, Mark will learn exactly what she's capable of. A few days later, Mark bursts through the front door with the confidence of someone who expects comfort waiting for him. "Emma, I'm home," he calls loudly, tossing his keys on the table. But instead of the usual quiet house, he freezes mid-step. Two uniformed officers stand in the center of the living room. Beside them is a woman in a clean gray suit holding a clipboard. Her expression is calm, professional, and unreadable. Mark's eyes widen. What is this?" The intensity hits him so fast that his breath shortens. For the first time in a long time, he is not the one controlling the room. Emma steps out from behind the officers. She stands steady, her face calm, almost emotionless. The bruises faintly visible on her cheek make the officer's presence even heavier. Before Mark can speak again, one of the officers steps forward. "Mark Collins?" His voice booms through the house, official and heavy. Yeah, Mark stammers. The officer holds out a thick envelope. You're being served. Mark laughs, sharp, disbelieving, mocking. He snatches the envelope and tears it open. But the moment his eyes land on the title, the laugh dies in his throat. Petition for divorce and temporary restraining order. The letters burn through him like fire. He looks up at Emma, betrayal twisting across his face. You can't be serious. Emma, what is this? Her voice is steady. It's exactly what it says. His face reddens. You think you can survive without me? She holds his gaze without blinking. I already have. The room falls silent. Mark's nostrils flare. He throws the papers onto the coffee table. This is insane. I provide everything for this house. You can't just... A quiet cough interrupts him. Attorney Carter Hayes steps forward from the corner of the room, dressed in a firm black suit. He holds another document, a single sheet with an official seal. Mark's eyes narrow. You again? Who invited this? Carter extends the paper calmly. Mr. Collins, you'll want to see this. This outlines the corporate succession and clarifies that you have no claim to your wife's inherited assets. Mark snatches it, still fuming. But when he reads the first lines, the anger drains from his face, replaced by confusion, then shock, then fear. Notification of corporate succession. Naming Emma Collins as sole owner and chief successor. His hands tremble. What? What is this? Emma? What? Emma stands tall, her voice quiet but firm. My father prepared everything. He left the entire company to me. Mark stumbles back a step. A company? What company? His voice shakes. What are you talking about? Carter's tone remains professional. Your late father-in-law owned one of the largest corporate groups in the country. Emma is now the sole heir. These documents also confirm that your name has never been on any of those assets. Mark's knees nearly buckle. Emma, she owns all of that. The woman in the suit speaks gently. Sir, we recommend you read everything carefully. These documents outline her financial independence, her corporate protections, and her legal grounds for the petition and protective order. Mark stares at Emma in disbelief. You hid this from me? She meets his stare evenly. I had to. You weren't safe to tell. His face twists, anger rising again, but this time it's mixed with panic. You think a restraining order and some company are going to save you? You can't run from me. The officers immediately step forward, blocking him. Mr. Collins, one warns, any threatening behavior or attempt to approach her violates the order and will be noted. Mark clamps his jaw shut. His eyes dart between them, between Emma, between the inheritance document that just shattered his ego. His phone buzzes. He pulls it out automatically. A message lights up the screen from B. Call me when you're single and settled. I can't be part of your drama. He stares at it, stunned. Another message pops up. Don't contact me until everything is finished. This is too much. The woman he was seeing has just abandoned him. Right here, right in front of everyone. His breath shakes. His confidence crumbles. Emma watches quietly. She doesn't smirk. She doesn't flinch. She simply stands there, calm, collected, someone he no longer recognizes. Behind her, Carter speaks softly. We'll be in touch soon, Emma. The hearing is scheduled. Everything is moving as planned. Emma nods. Mark feels his world closing around him, walls collapsing, safety vanishing. And as the officers begin explaining the restraining order conditions, where he can't go, who he can't contact, what happens if he breaks it, Emma turns and walks toward the hallway without looking back at him. She knows this is only the beginning, and far bigger consequences are waiting for him in the days ahead. Weeks later, the judge's gavel slams down with a force that shakes the room. Order in the court. Mark flinches. Emma doesn't. The intensity hits instantly. The courtroom is packed. Officers, lawyers, clerks, and a few onlookers who always seem to wander in for drama. Mark stands beside his lawyer, face tight, sweating, hands trembling. Emma sits beside Attorney Carter Hayes, calm and composed, her expression unreadable. This is the moment everything turns. The judge adjusts his glasses and nods to Carter. You may begin. Carter rises with quiet authority. Your Honor, today we present evidence of physical, emotional, and verbal abuse against my client, Mrs. Emma Collins, as well as a pattern of infidelity and manipulation by Mr. Collins. Mark scoffs loudly. This is ridiculous. Mr. Collins, the judge warns, you will stay silent until you are given permission to speak. Mark clenches his jaw, but obeys. His confidence cracks just a little. Carter opens a folder. The first photo appears on the screen. Emma's bruised cheek. The room shifts. An undeniable gasp cutting through the air. The bruise is faint now, but visible. A mark that tells a story without needing words. Carter continues. This photo was taken the morning after the incident. The medical report confirms trauma consistent with physical assault. Mark's lawyer jumps up. Objection. Overruled, the judge replies firmly. Another photo appears. Bruises across Emma's ribs, her skin discolored and painful. Mark snaps. She's exaggerating. Those are not silence, the judge barks. Emma stays perfectly still. She does not cry. She does not shake. She sits with the stillness of someone who has carried pain long enough to numb it. Carter clicks again. Audio plays. Mark's voice fills the courtroom like poison. You're a disappointment. You can't do anything right. I'm sick of you dragging me down. Everyone hears it. Every word. The courtroom chills. Mark's face drains. That's edited. She's twisting. Enough, the judge snaps. Speak again out of turn, and you'll be removed. Carter moves on. Your Honor, this is a screenshot from Mr. Collins's phone, captured before these proceedings. The screen shows text from B. B, did you tell her yet? B, I need proof you're actually leaving. Whispers scatter through the room. Mark's confidence crumbles another inch. His lawyer pinches the bridge of his nose. Defeated. Carter steps aside. Your Honor, we also have a witness. She came forward after we contacted her regarding these messages. The door opens. She walks in, a woman in her early 30s, well-dressed, nervous, but determined. The mistress. Mark's face drains white. What are you doing here? The woman avoids his eyes. Her voice shakes. I was told he was leaving his wife. He said she was unstable. He said he had proof. He told me she was the problem. She glances at Emma, guilt written across her face. I didn't know he was lying. When your office reached out, I couldn't keep covering for him. Carter nods gently. Thank you. Mark lunges forward. You traitor! You! Two officers grab his arms immediately. Enough! The judge bellows. You will control yourself. Mark's voice cracks, desperation pouring out. She tricked me. She planned all this. None of this is real. Emma finally looks at him. For the first time, she sees not a man, but a frightened child in a man's body. Someone who built his world out of arrogance and lies, and is now watching it collapse. The judge exhales, then begins reading. After reviewing the evidence presented and hearing testimony from both sides, he adjusts his glasses. Mark trembles silently. The court finds in favor of Emma Collins. The room reacts with a quiet, sharp gasp. The judge continues. Petition for divorce. Granted. Restraining order. Approved and extended. Criminal charges for assault. Pending review by the district attorney's office. With this court's recommendation to proceed. Mr. Collins has no legal or financial claim over Mrs. Collins's assets or inheritance. The final words hit Mark like a blow. No, you can't do this, he screams. His outburst ricochets through the courtroom. Officers grab him, holding him still as he thrashes. You ruined me. You ruined my life. His voice cracks. Emma, please, don't do this. But Emma stands calmly, gathering her documents with steady hands. She does not look back. Mark struggles in the officer's grip, desperation turning him wild. His screams echo down the hallway as they drag him away, his world collapsing piece by piece. Carter touches Emma's shoulder gently. It's over. But Emma knows better. As she walks out of the courtroom, the air feels different, lighter, but also uncertain. Because one thing remains. Aftermath always comes last. And deep inside her heart, a quiet whisper warns. Some endings don't stay quiet for long. The courthouse doors burst open behind Emma as a desperate scream tears through the air. Emma, please! Mark's voice cracks so violently that several people on the steps turn to stare. The intensity lands like a shockwave, freezing Emma mid-step. She doesn't turn around, but her breath trembles once. Just once. Behind her, Mark collapses to his knees on the courthouse steps. His tie is crooked, his face red and wet with tears. The last pieces of his pride scattered across the concrete. "Don't leave," he shouts. "I can change. I swear. Just don't do this." Officers stand nearby, watching him carefully, but not touching him unless he tries to approach. The restraining order is already in place. One more step toward her, and they will pull him back again. Emma closes her eyes. Only a moment. Then she exhales, soft and steady, letting the intensity melt off her shoulders like a heavy coat. She takes one silent step down the stairs, then another. Each step feels like shedding the weight of years, the fear, the pain, the shrinking of herself to keep peace. Behind her, Mark sobs harder. She finally reaches the sidewalk. The sun rests on her face, gentle and warm like her father's hands once were. A memory rises as clearly as if he were standing beside her. She is a child again, standing in their small shop while her father replaces a broken shelf. She holds a handful of screws, proud to be helping. "Daddy, what if I mess it up?" Her father kneels and wipes a streak of sawdust from her cheek. "Strength isn't loud, Emma," he tells her with a soft smile. "It's consistent. It shows up even when people don't notice." He taps her chest lightly. "And you've had that strength your whole life." The memory fades, leaving warmth in its place. Emma reaches into her pocket and pulls out her wedding ring, the same ring she once stared at with hope, the same ring she held on to during every apology, every second chance, every moment she chose forgiveness over herself. She turns it in her palm. It no longer feels heavy. It no longer feels like hers. A donation box sits near the courthouse entrance. Money for victims of violence, a cause her father supported for years. Emma walks toward it slowly. She opens her hand. The ring falls into the box with a soft, final sound. She doesn't look at it again. Two members of her company's security team wait beside a black car at the curb. They stand straight, professional, respectful. They do not stare at her bruises. They do not ask questions. They simply open the door. Emma gets inside. As the door closes, she hears Mark scream her name again. His voice breaks like something inside him has finally collapsed under its own weight. But she keeps her eyes forward. The driver looks at her through the mirror. "Ready, Mrs. Collins?" Emma nods. "Yes, take me home." Not the house she shared with Mark, her real home, the one her father built, where her name now sits on every document, where her future begins again. The car pulls away from the curb, leaving Mark behind on the courthouse steps, kneeling, crying, shaking, his last chance fading with every inch of distance. He reaches out weakly, arm trembling, but Emma never turns around. She doesn't need to. Her future is finally forward. And in the end, she didn't need revenge to win. She only needed the truth. The sunlight brightens the road ahead as the car disappears down the street, quiet, calm, and free. A gentle pause. Then the final lines. I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as I enjoyed creating it. Like, share, and comment on the lessons you've learned. Let me know where you're watching from in the comments below. See you in my next video.